Hi, my name's Anthony, and today on Playtest we're going to be going over the strategy guide for the Screaming Antelope. For this guide, we're going to go over the notable hunt events, the Showdown phase for level 1, 2, and 3, recommended gear, all that stuff. The antelope is a very skittish creature that's going to be moving around a lot and just kind of messing up your entire plan. A lot of the Screaming Antelope's hunt is just making it move backwards. And a lot of the time it's going to move into the starvation tile, especially if you're playing level 2 or 3. Events like skittish and migration are just going to move it backwards and there's nothing you can do. You might get some resources or you might have to roll on the hunt event table, but a lot of the time it's just going to be moving further and further away. So be prepared for overwhelming darkness and starvation. To counteract this, make sure you innovate cooking, especially at level 2 and 3. This is going to allow you to not have any adverse effects from starvation. Another notable hunt that I do want to mention is Dead Antelope. Dead Antelope seems like a pretty good card. You get some resources and you get to fight the White Lion, a node 1 quarry monster. Only exception is you have to fight it at a higher level, meaning if you already fight it at level 1 and you're fighting a level 1 Antelope, you'll be going against a level 2 Lion. Now, if you find the White Lion and feel pretty comfortable about it, great, especially if your party has weapons like the King Spear, the Catgut Bow, or the Bone Darts. If you don't have any of these and this is your first time fighting the Antelope and you have not fought a level 2 Lion yet, then I would advise proceeding with caution, as it is a possibility that the White Lion shows up, but if it does, be prepared. The Showdown board is going to look like this, or something very similar. You're going to have 3 acanthus plants, a bug patch, and then 2 random pieces of terrain. For this example, we drew a toppled pillar and a stone face. Your starting positions are going to be in a straight line on either end of the board. For this, I definitely recommend sticking together on the same side of the board. However, here are some things to look out for. The acanthus plants are kind of a fuck you if you don't know what you're doing. They allow the Screaming Antelope to move towards them, graze, and heal. Healing just means that any wounds that you've already done to it, you just place it right back in the AI pile. That kind of sucks. Now, at a level 1 quarry, you could honestly just stay back. A lot of the monster's AI cards, especially at level 1, is just going to be looking for a target. If no target, graze. Now, this is fantastic, especially for here, is if we can just hide behind something so we're not targeted by anything, the monster's just going to go ahead and graze. At a first level, nothing happens but heals. And if you haven't done any damage to it, it can't get more heals because you can't go over 100%. So this is kind of a way to kind of cheat your way through. However, if you do want to, you can go and pick up the acanthus plants. It is very possible for you to go up to them, roll onto the table, and then if you do well enough, you get fresh acanthus. And that's really good because that's your healing option for this fight. However, depending on how the board is set up or how your party works or how you want to try to defeat this monster, either or works just fine. However, I definitely recommend before doing any wounds, try to go for the acanthus plants. Now, as opposed to the White Lion where we mentioned kind of trying to stick together, this is a fight where I would advise being in the general area, but not quite next to each other. A lot, if not most, of the Screaming Antelope's attacks involve moving in a straight line and hitting anybody in its path. So if you're all in a straight line, or you're all kind of near each other, 2 spaces next to each other, and you're in the hit zone, you're both going to get damaged instead of just one of you. This monster is more of a strategic battle than a brute force battle. Unlike the White Lion and just trying to get near it and just bash it as much as you can, this is going to be all about positioning and communication. Now for the level 1 Antelope, you're going to start off with 10 health. Not only that, but you'll actually have a trait in play. Trample. When the monster collides with a survivor, they suffer damage equal to the monster's level to a random hit location. Remember how I said try not to stick together? This is one of the reasons why. Any movement it does, if it runs into you, you're going to take damage. And if there's multiple of you in its path, it's going to hit all of you for, if it's a level 1 damage. But at level 3, you're going to take 3 damage every time it hits you. Its movement is 6 and its toughness is 8, which isn't too bad. However, here's some gear that I definitely recommend. Bone Darts, Bone Dagger. If this is your first time fighting the Antelope, then you shouldn't have too many resources. However, if you do and were able to fight the White Lion and get enough resources, then you should have access to the King Spear. The King Spear is one of the best early game weapons that you can get. It's got reach, it's not frail, 2 attacks, 6 accuracy, 3 toughness. That's awesome. If everybody can get a King Spear, you're in the clear. If you've built more of your settlement and you've built the Leather Worker, then I definitely recommend picking up the Round Leather Shield. Not only is it going to give you a 1 on all your hit locations, and you can spend an action to block an incoming damage if you're not quite in range and expecting to get attacked, but this monster is actually weak to shields and to clubs. Now you can get a club pretty early on, the Bone Club, however it is cumbersome. Cumbersome just means that you need to spend an action and a movement to be able to use it, and for this fight, for a very skittish, very mobile creature, I don't recommend it, because it's going to take you movement to get to the creature and then attack, and and it's definitely going to move before the next turn, so you're just going to be wasting turns just trying to chase it. Now, the weakness to shields and club include hit locations such as the delicate inverted knee. If you hit with the shield or a club, you get +2 luck. That's huge. A lot of its hit locations have critical wounds, so the more critical attacks you can do, the more of a chance you get to just beat the hell out of it. For example, if you get a critical on delicate inverted knee, at the beginning of its movement, if it rolls a 1, it's knocked down and doesn't move. That's insane, because not only are you going to stop the skittishest creature's movement, but you'll be able to get +3 accuracy on all of your attacks on the next round. Like I said, positioning is key. It does have attacks for all adjacent creatures, however, the majority of its attacks are going to be moving in a straight line. Being in its corners is one of the best strategic moves that you can do. Not only are you going to be avoiding its attacks, but you'll be close to it, and if it moves in any directions, you'll have 2 survivors that are close to it and can most likely keep up with it. If your movement is 5 and it can move 6, you can move right up to it for its next attack. Your other characters can just recuperate, try to get more of the Canthus plants, or get a higher vantage point, such as if you have the stone faces in play. Now, attacks that you need to be aware of is anything that has gobble up. Attacks like Crush and Devour, if they hit you, they're simply going to eat you up. You'll then remove your character, place it on the gobble up card, and wait for something awful to happen. Gobble up just means that at the beginning of your turn, you're going to be rolling a 1d10 to see if you can escape. And even if you roll a really good number in your first one, you're still going to need to roll pretty damn well to not suffer any type of injuries. You're damn near going to need to roll a 7 up and then a 10 up. Now, to escape this, you just need your companions to hit this monster twice in one turn. So if you got gobbled up, you have 3 chances to be able to hit it twice. Once you hit it twice, roll on 1d10 and you're able to be spit out, if you don't roll a really bad number. This is pretty important to keep in mind because this can damn near be an instant kill. So if you're going to use your survival to dodge any attacks, I would recommend those. Something else to keep in mind, the Screaming Antelope can eat your weapons or even break them if they're frail. The Bone Blade is frail, which is why I didn't recommend it. If you hit the super dense location with it, it's just going to shatter. The Bone Darts, however, are frail. However, it's not as important if you don't have them because you should still have a Bone Dagger. Since this monster can eat your weapons, it is important to keep 2 weapons if possible, or else you'll just have your Fist and Tooth. However, if you don't have a weapon and you get a hit location that can devour, it's just going to take your arm instead. So for a level 1, be prepared, position yourself correctly, and you'll be perfectly fine. Now for the level 2, we get a new trait in play. Diabolical. At the end of the monster's turn, target a random survivor in the trample zone. Full move through the target. If there's no target, full move forward. Now this is where positioning is going to be even more of a key. At the end of every single one of its turn, it is possible for it to do just a free attack on you. Its movement becomes 8, which means it can move a lot further. But you can still use the level 1 principle of just letting it graze and just wear out the Acanthus plants if you like. Since everything gets above, making its toughness an 8, here's some gear that I recommend. Skullcap Hammer, Whistling Mace. If you're fighting the level 2 Antelope, you should definitely have the Weapon Crafter crafted. Skullcap Hammer is 2 speed, 7 accuracy, and 3 strength. It has a perfect hit. The monster is dazed and gains -1 speed tokens until the end of the turn. This is absolutely huge, especially when we're playing on the weaknesses of the hit location. This essentially means that we have a 30% chance of getting a perfect hit and not only getting a persistent injury, but also giving it 1 less attack. Now, Whistling Mace introduces a mechanic that I think is really important for level 2 and even more important for level 3. On a perfect hit, reveal the next AI card, place it on top or bottom of the AI deck. Now, this introduces AI manipulation. Knowing what's next can give you so much insight for the rest of your party, especially if you get a critical hit early on. It lets the rest of your party either hit, move back, use an action, use anything that they need to be prepared for the next attack. With that, I do recommend having 2 more pieces before you fight a level 2 Antelope. The first one being a Rawhide Headband, and the other, the Paint Innovation. With the Rawhide Headband, you're able to reveal the top 2 AI cards, place them back on top of the deck in any order. It's going to allow for even more deck manipulation to get AI cards out of there if you know that you're going to get a hit. So for example, a character can use this action to reveal the top 2 cards, revealing a legendary attack and an A attack. Because we know that one of our players has a Founding Stone, so we could just play Skewer, a legendary attack, on the top, letting them play their Founding Stone, deliberately getting rid of a legendary attack. And we know that the next one is going to be a Lone Rampage, so we know that everybody else needs to move out of the way. AI manipulation for level 2 is highly recommended. Now, the Paint Innovation gives us Dash. For survival, it lets you move again, which is really important, especially if we have Diabolical in play. What this will allow you to do is move in, attack, spend a survival to get into a spot that it won't be able to hit. For example, our character is able to move in 5, attack, spend a survival, knowing that it's going to be moving in a straight line, because there's going to be nobody in the straight line ahead of it once we move. We're able to calculate this, move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let the monster do its thing, move in a straight line, and ready to be attacked again. Now, of course, this is based on the antelope not moving with one of its attacks. However, like I said before, positioning is key when fighting this monster. Now, the level 3 antelope is definitely insane, and it's where you're going to want to be a little bit more careful at the beginning of the showdown. The level 3 antelope gains legendary horns and hypermetabolism. Legendary horns gives it +4 toughness tokens and +1 speed token. Its toughness is going to be 16, its speed is going to be 3+, and its damage is going to be 2+. So legendary horn gives it quite a boost. However, it can get worse. Hypermetabolism. Whenever the monster consumes terrain or gear, the monster gains +1 speed token. It's going to attack even more every single time. Now in level 1 and 2, it did not have hypermetabolism, which means you could just stand back, let the antelope graze around, and nothing bad would happen. With this, if you let it do that, it will get more and more powerful. The recommendation for here is to go in early and try to pick as many plants as possible. Whether it means having 2 parties start on either end of the board to get as many plants as possible is completely up to you, however it is recommended. Legendary Horn also states that if you end your act adjacent to the monster, you're going to be taking 1 monster brain damage per level. So you're going to be taking 3 brain damage at the end of your turn. This is where ranged and reach weapons are incredibly important. If you have the King Spear, you're good to go. Now the gear that I recommend here is kind of a 2-parter. First off, this is where I recommend you having different classes. And the one that I want to highlight is a support class. You can build different classes based on how you want, such as having a ranged character with darts or a bow, a tank character with a mace and the shield and just as much armor as possible to take the hits. However, the support class is what I want to highlight here. The items that I recommend for a support class, especially for here, is a cat eye circlet, a first aid kit, and a blue charm. The support class's complete objective is to simply support the rest of the team. You're going to be using items like the rawhide headband or the cat eye circlet to manipulate both of the decks. The cat eye circlet is going to let you manipulate the hit location deck, which is incredibly important, especially paired with the blue charm. For an action, you can reveal the next 3 monster hit locations and put them back in any order. This is your chance to manipulate the hit locations and take the hit for the trap. The trap is awful. If everybody's nearby and the trap activates, everybody's knocked down, knocked back, and the Screaming Antelope's basic action targets knockdown survivors, and if it's able to get any of the Canthus plants, it's going to possibly completely kill a survivor. With the Cat Eye Circlet, simply manipulate the top 3 cards of the hit location deck. If the Wailing Slide does come in play, it is your turn to go in and take the hit. The blue charm gives you a 50% chance of completely negating the trap. Now this is awesome because you're the only one that gets hit and it's a 50% chance, which in Kingdom Death is a pretty good odds. Being able to manipulate the hit location deck is huge. It allows for your tank or anybody that has a mace or a shield to go in at the appropriate time. It lets you pick who goes when and who has the highest chances to be able to hit this thing. So if you know if the next 3 are not going to be any dense locations, you can have somebody with a frail weapon go in and be just fine. To top it off with a rawhide headband where you can manipulate the AI deck, you know who you need to send, when to send them, and you get way more control in the fight. To make things even more powerful, I recommend you having the Inner Lantern innovation at least. Once per round, spend 1 survival, gain 1 action. This will allow you to use both the Cat Eye Circlet and the Rawhide Headband in the same turn, letting you take a peek and manipulate the hit location and the AI deck. And not only will the first aid kit help heal everybody, but it will give everybody, including you, +3 survival at the beginning of the round, which means for at least 3 rounds, you'll be able to completely manipulate the hit location deck and the AI deck. Now, of course, there are a bunch of different builds you can do for this. However, I definitely wanted to recommend the support build because that's what I like to play as, but I feel like, especially for this monster, it is incredibly important. With it being so cagey and random and just moving so quick and just having all these different buffs, it's so important for you to be able to manipulate and control the situation so things don't get out of hand. In short, here's things to keep in mind. Don't stick too close together. You'll all get hit. You don't want that. Bring extra weapons if you got them. It's most likely going to get lost, eaten, or broken. And lastly, try to control the situation. Use different items and support your team. You don't all need to be tanks to have a great time and to defeat monsters. If I missed anything important or anything that you would recommend, please put them in the comments below so people can see. I also want to try new builds to be able to defeat different monsters, so that would be a great time. I'm also really curious on what everybody uses to defeat different levels of monsters. But I'll leave it at that. Have a great time on your showdown, and I'll see you on the next one.